We're going to talk about something coming to London Public Library tomorrow because our next guest is going to be there. He is Dave, and that's what we will call him from this point on because he likes to remain fairly anonymous. Simply because of what he does. Dave is from Freaktography.com. You can check out that website, and we had a chance to chat with him and talk about what he does. He takes pictures of places that maybe you don't really think need to have pictures taken. They're things that are buildings that are maybe abandoned, or he'll go into spots. In other words, he's going into spots where he maybe isn't technically allowed to go, but he's getting these amazing pictures. So we spoke with him and talked to him about the fact that there really aren't a lot of hours out of the day where Dave doesn't have a camera in his hands.
Yeah, I get out quite often. I've been lucky. I'd have to say, I try to get out every other weekend or a couple times a month. It's kind of like a form of therapy. It gets me away. Life, work, all that kind of stuff gets to you. Going out and what I call recreational trespassing seems to be my escape from all that.
Okay, you've painted an interesting picture with that phrase, recreational trespassing. Let's get your definition then of what recreational trespassing is.
Yeah, that's a fun term. So it's called urban exploration or urban exploring. Some people shorten it to urbex. The kids these days are calling it urbex. Anyways, it is the exploration of any structure or facility that is off limits and unseen.
That doesn't sound as bad now. All of a sudden, recreational trespassing, you throw in the word trespassing, and now you think, well, wait a minute, no. It's there. It's kind of like the old song Signs, where, you hop the fence and you get in trouble for hopping the fence, but it was kind of a space that wasn't being used anyway.
That's exactly right. And I mean, I kind of justify it, not only myself but others. It's justified by I'm not there to do any harm or to do any damage. And, some people always ask me, how many have you been caught? What happens? Typically, when you're caught trespassing, when you're caught by a property owner, they immediately have their guard up and they instantly they're mad, right? But when they find out that you're just there curious and you're taking photos, I'd say 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, they back down, they're okay. Sometimes they say you can stay, but most of the time they still ask you to leave.
We are talking with Dave from Freaktography.com. So what even gave you kind of your first experience where you thought, wow, I might have something here. This is really cool.
Yeah, well, it was around March 2012, and an old friend of mine was telling me about this really creepy old house in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And everybody knows Niagara-on-the-Lake. It's a beautiful city, beautiful town. And the houses are very nice, but there's this one road where every house is beautiful, manicured, and then on a corner there's this one dumpy, boarded-up house. And there's 100 different stories about why this house looks like this. And the most popular one is that there was some sort of paranormal activity that happened in this house that caused the family to pack up their gear and leave. And nobody has ever lived there since. And to this day, that house is still there. Long story short, that story really got me interested. And I started looking it up. And I found that there's this whole group of people on the internet that go into abandoned buildings and they take photos. And I had a nice camera. I didn't know anything about it. And it just gave me something to do. I needed a hobby. I started driving the back roads of Milton, Burlington, Oakville, London quite often. And it just turned into something that I really enjoy. And it turns out that there's a lot of people out there that are fascinated by this kind of stuff.
Well, we're going to find out more. A Tour de Freak at the London Public Library comes up. I'm going to say tomorrow. Right now, I'll edit this because we're going to run this on Friday for you.
Right.
So if I'm saying tomorrow, don't think, what is this guy talking about? So
of course, yeah.
We're going to find out more. Tour de Freak comes to the London Public Library tomorrow from 2 until 4. And again, that's downtown. And you can take a look at everything that Dave is talking about. Now, even before you take us on the back road tour of things, take us back to that house that first time. Was that one of the first places or the first place that you did this? You went in there?
The funny thing is, I've never been in this house. I've been to the house, and the house is so boarded up, and it's got neighbors on both sides, and you can't get in unless you're interested in bringing a crowbar and breaking it in, which I'm not interested in doing that. I've tried to reach out to real estate agents to get access to the house, but I can't get anybody to write back or answer me. And I'm sure one of these days I will get in this house, but I've actually never been in the one home that got me started.
Isn't that amazing? So did you still go with your camera and capture photographs of the house?
I did. I took pictures of the outside of the house, and I tried peeking my eye through little holes in the wood and the boards on the window, but I couldn't get myself inside, unfortunately.
And is it still a goal to one day get in there?
It is. I actually tried reaching out to a real estate agent about a month ago, but I haven't heard back yet.
Well, good luck with that. But at the same time,
you.
that kind of sets you off. So where did you go next where you actually did get inside? Because some of your pictures are amazing. You look at all of your pictures are amazing, but you look at the way that you capture ceilings or the way that you capture views from inside these buildings.
Well, I will tell you, my very first abandoned houses were in between Burlington and Milton. I live in Burlington, Ontario. And the very first houses that I got into were on Termaine Road in Burlington. And my very, very first time entering an abandoned house, my heart was pounding. I was terrified I was going to get caught. And don't I hear the sound of what sounds like a dog coming in and running through the house? I froze. The hairs stood up on my arms. It turns out it was a raccoon.
No.
trying to get out of the house. But I will say this was back in 2012, and my early stuff was absolute garbage. When you have to start somewhere though, and the stuff that you see more recently from me the last few years, I'm a bit more proud of my more recent work, not so much my early stuff. But I couldn't get to where I think I am now without that early stuff in those early days.
Okay, before we move on again, I'm sorry to take you back, but you got to take us back to the raccoon. You're frozen, the hair's standing up on the back of your neck. You hear this thing, and then did a raccoon actually appear in front of you?
Well, I was upstairs, and I heard something running through the house, and then I heard a door close. So it was a raccoon that knew I was in the house. It took off, and it bashed his head into the door to get himself out of the house. But I thought it was a dog and a homeowner coming in, and I thought a dog was going to come charging at me up the stairs.
Dave from Freaktography.com joining us. Check out the website so you can see what we mean. You can add pictures to what we're talking about. But Tour de Freak comes to London, Ontario this weekend. It will be at the London Public Library tomorrow from 2 until 4. You talk about your first pictures being garbage, which I'm sure they're not. But how did you know? Okay, I've got something here, but it needs to be honed. It needs to be better. What was it that you saw that wasn't what it needed to be?
Well, I was following a lot of others in this hobby that do this sort of thing. People that have been doing it for a lot longer than I had been at the time. And you sort of see there's a benchmark of a type of photograph. For one thing, they're not crooked, right? First of all, you got to stop turning your camera to the left when you take a photo. There's certain things in photography that you want to look for. They call it the rule of thirds or the golden ratio or different ways of composing a photograph, things I knew nothing about when I first started. And it's all trial and error, and it's the negative feedback that you get from people is actually, in my opinion, what makes you better. And, you can have all the people in the world telling you that's a great shot, but the person with the right eye to give you that feedback of, you should have done this differently, whether they put it nicely or not, it's the bad feedback and the negative feedback of your work, in my opinion, that makes you improve as a photographer.
Right. And how much training had you had? You mentioned you had a good camera. How much training had you had before you got into this?
I'm 100% self-taught.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I knew nothing. I had an old Nikon camera. I didn't know how to use it, and I just taught myself on that camera. And I'm 3 cameras into the hobby now. I'm now shooting with a pretty good camera. I'm getting into videos. I've just got a drone. I've got a YouTube channel. So I'm trying to expand. I do this for myself, but at the same time, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that are fascinated by this stuff. So I'm trying to bring people a multimedia approach to this stuff where I've bought a 360-degree camera where I can take a photo in a room and the viewer can use their mouse or a finger to move around the whole room, up and down, left and right. I do videos for my YouTube channel where people can actually explore along with me. I've just bought a drone so I can get drone footage of different locations, and I'm just trying to bring it in as many different forms of media as I can.
Gotcha. Now,
Yeah.
as a final question, have there been any other moments where you've walked in and thought, something's going wrong here, like the dog and the raccoon, or have you kind of mastered that aspect of this too?
Well, there's been times when you're inside, let's say, an abandoned hospital, and there's a security guard who's in the hospital, and you have to try and avoid that security guard. And that happened to me at the London Psychiatric Hospital a couple of times. and I'll get to that in a minute about more of these London locations that I'm going to be bringing to the presentation. But yeah, London Psychiatric Hospital has a 24-hour security guard. And when I explored this building on a number of occasions, you just have to avoid that front main entrance because that's where they hang out. There's been times where there have been other animals in the buildings I've been in, or let's see, my biggest fear is probably a porcupine.
Oh, yeah.
I would hate to startle a porcupine, but that hasn't happened to me yet.
Because there's a lot of darkness where you're going.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, well then, in closing, tell us what you are showing off in terms of what we have here as hidden gems in London to look at.
Yeah, so my presentation, it's a 2-hour introduction into what it is that I do, how I got into it, and I tell some of my more well-received and popular stories. But I always customize my presentation to the city that I'm in. And I will tell you, London has been so good to me over the years in terms of abandoned buildings. There's lots of them out there that are known by everybody. There's the McCormick's Candy Factory. Everybody's been there. I've been there a number of times. There's been a lot of houses abandoned in London. The London Psychiatric Hospital and the old asylum on the property. I've been there a number of times. So I'm going to bring you guys a very, very good assortment of abandoned buildings that I've seen in London that everybody can probably relate to, maybe they've been to, and hope to God somebody doesn't own one of the buildings that I've been in.
That's outstanding. Well, Dave, we really appreciate you sharing some time with us. Can't wait to see you here. Thanks so much.